Would being ahead on retirement ever justify spending more than 25% of your gross income on housing? We are 28, but we have 3 times our annual income in retirement already. How would you think about this?
But you wouldn't, you just put down more money.
That's a great.
I mean, because it's not. I mean, do you realize? Because part of this, when we create rules and things, you realize your biggest risk with success is that your spending gets to be so big and so far from the social safety net that when you retire, your money just doesn't go as far as you thought it would. Mm-hmm. And so I have no problem with people live the baller life, but just make sure you're not faking it. I mean, because it's so much better to be rich than to look rich. And if I see that all of a sudden your housing is more than 25% of your income and you didn't make that up with a much larger down payment, it feels like you're faking it until you make it.
Yeah, I think the language you use is, "Hey, I'm ahead of the curve." Was that the language?
He's ahead on retirement.
Ahead on retirement. So I'm like winning the race. In my opinion, the best way to screw up having a lead is kind of when you start showboating, right? Like when you start showboating in the race, that's a really good way. If you're already ahead of the curve and you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing and you're making the financial decisions that a financial mutant would need to make to have 3 times their annual income saved up by the age of 28, I would argue, why do you need to make the decision to go run afoul of the housing rule and go buy a house that's 30% of your gross income or 35% of your gross income? Because what if something changes? What if there's a reduction in force with one of your employers? Or what if something happens income-wise? Or what if you want to make the decision to have a single income if you're a dual income household? By making that aggressive decision, what you're doing is you're moving yourself further out on the risk spectrum for no reason. So I love that advice. Hey, if you want that bigger, nicer, more expensive house, just save up for a bigger down payment so that you can put enough down to get your mortgage, your housing costs inside of that 25%. I just don't see a reason to stretch that.
Well, I think, and there's an analogy here, one of the things, if you're looking for hobbies, people who get into private aviation, they usually buy themselves out of their hobby. Mm-hmm. And I think that successful people can buy themselves out of a comfortable retirement. And what I mean by that is like people who get into private aviation, they buy a Cessna. They can afford the Cessna. Mm-hmm. They can afford the insurance on the Cessna. Yep. They can afford the burn rate of the fuel. Then they move into the Cirrus, a little bit more price point. But then all of a sudden they're getting into different brands that just the cost is more, the burn of the fuel is more, the insurance is more. And then you can't even get in private jets when you're getting into $5,000 an hour burn rate on just the fuel.
Yep.
I mean, it's things. This is what I see wealthy people do too. And this is why there is something valuable. Have you noticed the wealthier people get, the poorer sometimes they look? Go look at Rolexes and other things. You've quickly realized that a lot of people who buy these brands that the unwealthy perceive as great, people who are wealthy just don't care about this stuff as more.
It's not as valuable.
We live in a community where it's just like I was telling Bo, I couldn't believe the price point of a brand new neighborhood by it's not even a custom home builder. It's a semi-custom builder. And I was like, so there are people, either these people are in debt up to their eyes or there are enough people concentrated in this area that they can afford to pay those millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. But that's a choice. And that's why I think that it needs to be a choice that you truly can afford, not that you're leveraging up to your eyeballs so you take away your flexibility, you take away your options, and all the benefits of actually being a disciplined financial mutant who lets your money create more time and resources for you to do what you want, when you want, how you want with your money, versus being indebted to that commitment just because you want to impress people who probably don't even care.